Hello. Welcome to the 6th Annual Puget Sound Conference. Thank you all for coming. My name is Serenity Green. I am the Vice President of the Youth Council for the NAACP. I'm also a student at Marion High School. Today I'm just going to introduce our keynote speaker, Deborah Parker. So Deborah Parker is a tribal politician, activist, and strong voice on combating violence against Indigenous women. The former vice chairman of the Tulalip tribe of Washington State is perhaps most prominently known for activism surrounding the Violence Against Women Act, particularly inclusion of increased protections for Indigenous women living on the tribal lands. She helped to bring often overlooked issues, sexual and domestic violence, and often overlooked community, Native Americans, to the forefront of the national stage. All the rest of the introduction is going to be in your pamphlet that was given to you. So I just want to introduce Deborah Parker and give her a name.
ACM Health Attitude. Good morning. What a beautiful introduction. Wow, it is a beautiful time to be here. It's a beautiful day, even in the Northwest, even though there's clouds, it's not raining, so our hair's a little dry unless you showered this morning. Oh, great. Okay. Can you hear me? Okay. Great. Thank you. I just have to say that I've been in quite a few cities this week alone. It's Earth Week, and so I've been asked to speak different parts of the country. So I flew in around midnight last night from Texas. The day before I was in Oklahoma in a big storm, traveling from Tulsa to Pawnee to speak with the United Oklahoma, Texas, and Kansas United Tribes. So, and then before that, I don't remember. That was in the last 2 days, just those cities. So it's very exciting to be here because this is my home. This is my home. And it's my home for generations. So when I come here, back flying into the Northwest, looking at the Puget Sound and the beauty and the fresh air, I just feel so grateful. And then sometimes when I'm leaving, I'm so excited to get away. Like I'm thinking, it's going to be sunny somewhere over there, and I get to see the sun. But somehow, and I don't know if that's a gift we bring from the Northwest, but it sometimes ends up raining. And in Oklahoma, they had the most rain they've had in 10 years. It's not my fault. I was hoping for, there's no rain dance involved. It was pure, just breathing through each and every day. So I'm here today. Thank you so much for the organizers, for bringing us all together here. It's such an important issue to talk about who we are from the core of who we are. It's important to, first of all, for me also to introduce myself in our traditional way. Halia is my daughter. She goes to school here. I almost said that was my name, but it's not. My daughter, Kaya George, is the First Nations president, so she hopefully will join us later this morning. But my traditional name is Sitsayaltsa, and that's my grandmother's name 7 generations back. And so she was a Snohomish woman, so we currently say Snohomish, but to us it's Snohomish. And so she lived right across the waters here, and in fact we had the village of Habulb right here in this area. And so that's where my family is from for many generations. She was married to a man named Sahalil. So I was asking some of our elders and our keepers of our culture, I was asking them some information about where I come from, who am I? And so they said, your name, Sitsayaltsa, means elegant woman. I thought, Because in our traditional way, you have to live up to those names. And I always thought myself as rough and tumble and grew up with 4 brothers, so, elegant wasn't the way to be in our house. But it's always the name that you hope to live up to, that you hope to honor. And I asked she had a husband named Sahalil. And I asked about him, and then, what does that mean? And they said, it's kind of like bad boy. Oh, great, that's like, the elegant lady goes with the bad boy. Isn't that the story? But she was known to be part of our medicine, to carry part of our medicine, a piece of our medicine. And to us, the medicine is our earth. The medicine is a spirit that you carry within yourself. And so living up to that name each and every morning, we're taught to greet the morning. And no matter where I go, the words of my leaders, the words of our elders ring in my mind. And that's to cleanse yourself in the morning, to take that water and wash your eyes and ask for the Creator to bless you with the things that you need to see in today's moment, in the new day. Take that water and bless your ears so that you may hear the words that you're meant to hear today. And as a speaker this morning, because we know every word that we partake, every word that we say, we leave that spirit of the word with us for others. So this morning I asked for the words to come to me. And then the 4th, I asked for a blessing, just a blessing, just to ask the Creator to interpret the things that I need. Because in my crazy mind and in the crazy day, we don't always know what that means. With all of the noise pollution, we lose sight. With all the visual interruptions, we forget to see what's important to us. So these things in the morning are just a simple prayer to help me get through my day, but I'm also praying that these words help you get through your day. And so that's how I started this morning, and that's a teaching that I received that I'm passing on to you as well. And for us, we have our sacred knowledge in our traditional longhouses. And so for a long time, I used to teach at the University of Washington. And hey, Sal, I see some of my good friends here. We have our councilwoman, Teresa Sheldon, here from the Tulalip tribes. Thank you, sister, for being here. It's such a blessing to see so many beautiful faces. So it's an honor to be here. But in our traditional way, in our longhouses, we are asked to speak from our heart. So when you're asked to speak, you don't wrestle around for that book. And I've come to different places to speak at colleges, universities, and I usually have often I have a PowerPoint, and then I have my notes, and then you know how you get to speaking, and then you're like, wait, where was I? And then there's always something that I really, really want to say, but it's not written. It's not in the PowerPoint. And then I'm like, well, so finally I put the PowerPoint away, I put my notebook away, I put my computer away. Thank you. I get thumbs up by our elder here. I put all of that away, and I'm here to speak with you, from my spirit to your spirit. And sometimes as tired as I was from flying back and sleeping in those cramped planes, and no, I didn't fly United. Alaska Air right here. For some reason, I can't do that. I picture myself being dragged out. I'm like, oh my gosh, it would be embarrassing. It would be ugly. I would kick too. Anyway, So waking up, sharing this experience, introducing myself to you, letting you know that the Spirit is within each and every one of us. And the spirit of our Snohomish people, the spirit of our Snoqualmie people, the spirit of our Duwamish, of our Lummi, of our Coast Salish peoples are here with us. And so I always want to acknowledge the people who came here first, the people who are from the lands. And it really, this morning as I looked in the back, if you see towards the back, there's a garden back there, and there's a Kukul H, an orca whale carving. And my daughter, who's in high school and in college, so she's in Running Start here, she decided, Kaya Rose is her name, Kaya George, she decided with her group of friends to do a traditional garden to honor the traditional medicines of the Northwest Coast. So it's a work in progress, and I was watching them pull the weeds. I didn't do it. But I was watching, and I was very excited to see that these young people were getting their hands all dirty. But you know what? They were smiling. They were so happy and so proud to make this area a beautiful place. And to honor not only the people of the Northwest Coast, our Coast Salish people, but they wanted to honor the earth. They wanted to honor the rooted, those plants that live and breathe with us. And that's so important too. And I must say it's equally important. As human beings, it is our job, it is our responsibility to take care of the earth. It's a gift that the Creator gives us. That gift of spirit, that gift of mind, that gift of connection. And sometimes we have a hard enough time connecting with each other. But I think that really goes back to we have a hard time connecting with ourselves. That's okay. You can clap because I agree, Matt. I see many people nodding their heads because, you know what, that's something I struggle with. And although I'm here to speak today on domestic violence, sexual assault, this is all a part of it. This is a part of our life. This is a part of the sickness. This is a part of the healing. This is a part of who we are and where we come from. And unless we can connect to ourselves, how can we connect to another human being? Unless we can be true to ourselves and what we've been through and what we've seen, how can we see another person? How can we honor and love another person? And as I was traveling yesterday, I seen some houses, they looked alike. And I was thinking, wow, those houses look alike. But I bet you on the inside tells a whole nother story. And I was watching the houses, and I bet that each person on the inside is trying to live the best way that they know how. But in their mind, they're probably thinking, I need a bed, I need a dresser, I need to do this because this is the programming that we have. But how many of us don't want to live in that box? It's okay, we need a home, we need a place to stay. But how many of us want to be true to our core and do something a little bit different? Like Standing Rock. For those of you following Standing Rock, thank you. Some of you in this room went to Standing Rock. Thank you. And you lived on the earth. And I brought my 7-year-old, his name is Witua, he came with me to Standing Rock. He answered the call. And when we got there that night, I was speaking to the organizers, and we were going to set up our tent. And I thought, well, it's kind of dark, and my little guy gets on my leg. He says, Mom, it's okay. The Creator wants us to feel the earth. He wants us to be here. So let's set up right over here. And so we did. I thought, well, okay, the Creator wants us to feel the earth. Let's do this. I'm getting earthy. I do like my bed. It's a good bed. But let's set up our tent. We set up our tent. And that night I had a beautiful rest. My son seemed very restful. By morning, he was on the sleeping bag, in the blankets, nicely covered, and I was on the plastic tent. No blankets. So when he said, feel the earth, I felt the earth. But I can tell you the peacefulness of that sleep was truly amazing, and I did feel connected to the earth. I did feel that connection. And so we stayed there for quite a few days. I had my sister here with me who traveled. And I can tell you that it was a different way of life. We woke up, we were by the fire, we connected with the songs. That's what we heard in the morning. If you can imagine hearing songs in the distance. And it was a natural song. We have our drums. That's our sacred medicine. That drum, when you wake up, there's a beat to it. Put your heart back into rhythm. Because I know for one, my heart gets out of rhythm. It gets racing. Maybe it's from all the coffee that I drink. We've got some good coffee in the Northwest, so I have to be honest about that and say, it gets us through the day. But that rhythm, that natural waking up when the sun was getting up, you could hear the birds. And to me, that's a beautiful way of life. How can we get back to that beautiful way of life? How can we give ourselves permission to get back to that beautiful way of life? Because we've been taught a whole different way of life. You look in magazines, you have to look a certain way. You have to be a certain way. And it's okay to explore, it's okay to have a good time and go shopping and do all those things, but how do we get back to the core of what we want to look like, how we want to speak, how we want to be in our life? So these are the words that I didn't anticipate sharing with you this morning, but I'm so glad to be here, so glad to share a story with you and weave into, this is our cultural way of life. You speak from your heart. You speak with each other. It's not at each other, we're connecting here. We're learning about each other. And I can tell you, just like when I recently met with President Trump, I'm sorry. It's okay, let it out. No. Breathe, everyone, breathe. Remember I said, cleanse yourself. And it's okay. I mean, we are all human, and I do try my best to be kind to each person, whether I agree with them or not. That's a teaching that I received from my mother, who's here tonight. My mom, Miss Addie. Wave your hand, Mom. That's my mom. I adore her to pieces, and the teachings that she has are so beautiful. She's a very humble person. She wouldn't be the person speaking on the microphone, but she'll quietly say that we're all connected. Treat each and every person with kindness, and nobody is any greater than you, and you're no less than anyone else. Why are you telling? She was looking at me. Why are you telling people? But I love my mom, and these are the teachings that each and every day I hope to emulate. But meeting Trump, I was asked the other day in a question, they said, well, when you're speaking with officials, how do you only have a few seconds to meet with people often. Senator Murray, hello, Senator Murray, can you help us with this bill? Okay, thank you. And they're off because there's a lot of work to be done in the legislature, in the government. So what do? So I'm going to teach you a little secret. So with President Trump, I went to his joint session. I was a guest with Congresswoman Gwen Moore from Wisconsin Amazing, amazing leader right there. Each person in the House and the Senate, because I learned this too, each person in the House and the Senate, they get to choose one person. Typically it's their spouse or someone in their office they're close with, but Gwen Moore decided to pick a Native American woman. So she called me up and said, "Would you like to be my guest for the joint session?" I said, "Heck yes." So I got to listen to our current president and got to see all of our Washington delegates. And the beautiful thing is I was in the gallery, so I get to see all of our, the House and the Senate, Patty Murray, or Senator Murray, Senator Cantwell, and Rick Larson, Representative Larson. So they were all down, and it was great. They were waving up, and I was waving down. And afterwards, the President Trump left, and we were going to do some speaking engagements and meet with the media. So I was going around the building and around the halls, I should say. And I just happened to run into President Trump coming this way. So he was shaking the hands, and then he skipped over me. And I was shocked. So Gwen Moore, Congresswoman Moore, says, "Get in there, Deborah." Like, she pushed me. So I waited the next person, and then he had already turned, and security's right there, and I thought, "Oh no, you are not going to turn on me." So I reached over and I tapped his shoulder. Yeah. In my head, I'm thinking, "Oh, I'm going to be arrested." I'm like, Trust me, I have been taken out by a guard at the White House before. Some of you may know this story. I was manhandled, as my friend from the South says. So I reached and I touched him, and he turned, and I said, I put out my hand, and I shook his hand, and I says, "President Trump, please make sure you honor the indigenous nations, the Native American people of the United States." And he shook his head, and he went, and that was it. But I can tell you that it's much more than those words, because you do have a few seconds. It was that touch. It was that touch. And I knew that the energy that I had, that was it. That touch is so powerful. And I'm not just talking about my touch, I'm talking about our touch. So I'm just going to call it the day I healed the president. I'm just kidding. My mom will say, "You're not a healer." But I had fun, and that made it a very successful day, because after listening to the speech, I needed something. But I want to bring, and I got to watch the time, because this could get fun. And how are we? We're good for time? Yeah, okay. So this brings me back to a little bit of why Congresswoman Moore had asked me to join her at the United States Senate. In 2012, I ran for office for the Tulalip tribes. And it was a very nerve-wracking time, because for us, it's you run for office and it's your own people. So I'm like, if I lose, they don't like me. That means your own family doesn't like you. And so it's very humbling to get out there and to run and talk about what matters to you most. But I can tell you it was the best time of my life. It was a time I connected with our elders. it was a time I went to houses and they said, sit down, Deborah, let's have a meal. And I see them all the time. Some of these, they're my second cousin, my first cousin, all my relatives. But having dinner with them and them telling me what matters most to them, boy, if I could turn back the clock and just keep doing that, because that's the realness. That was the connection. Sitting there eating, sharing a meal, having coffee. I had dinner 3 times once. Since then, I said we should walk and talk. So having that connection with your relatives, finding out what matters most to our people, and part of my reasoning, my thinking was that, okay, people are going to want things that are really intense, but really it was so simple. They just want happiness. They want to feel heard. And I think that's the biggest thing I learned is people want to feel like you listened to them and that you connected with them. And that's such a basic principle. That's such a basic feeling that as long as we're feeling heard and appreciated and maybe even understood, that this life can be so much better. So a lot of the time, that's what it was. It's just simple storytelling. It was simple. Yes, we want, some of the kids wanted a new skate park. We want better education. We want to do more cultural activities, basket weaving, beading. These are things that we just want to feel more connected and happy. So after running and listening, I was elected as vice chairwoman of my tribe. Yes. And I can tell you that was an extreme honor, but a very, very intense, scary, because now I have this information and I want to do the best for our people. A people who are so beautiful to me that I want to do justice for. So in April, when I was elected, April 2012, I believe, it was on a Saturday, I walked into the office on a Monday, my new office. We have a beautiful new administration building. I walked in the office and sat in our chairman's office, and one of our other council members, some of you may know him, Don Hatch, he was preparing to go to Washington, D.C. to talk about environmental justice, to help work on the culverts and our fish runs, to keep our waters clean, to keep coal away from our waters and the dust. And so he was preparing to go to D.C. to leave on Tuesday. And he says, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, I'm sick, I'm not feeling well, my doctor won't let me go, won't let me travel. Who do we have that can go to Washington, D.C.? And there I was. Where's my office? Where's my keys? Can I have a notebook so I can take notes? And they said, well, hey, Deborah's been our policy analyst for the Tulalip tribes for the last how many years? She goes to D.C., she works on these issues. Hey, Deb, can you go to D.C. tomorrow? I looked up. Yeah, I guess I can. And so that was the moment. I packed my bag and told my family I'm off to D.C. to save the world, to fight for our fish, to fight for our rivers and clean air. So I loaded, and at the time I remember it was a truck. It was my husband's broken down truck. So I loaded the truck, I was going down the freeway, and I don't know why, but tears were rolling down my face. Like, wow, this is real. I get to protect our people. But now not as a staff member, not as a tribal member, but as a tribal leader. That's the coolest thing in the world to me. So I was driving down the road, and I don't know why, but tears were rolling down my face. And I could hear the words of, maybe some of you know him, Billy Frank Jr. Billy Frank Jr. He's one of our fierce fighters for our fish, our fierce fighters for our environment, and he soon passed on. But as I was going down, I remember I was a young person, and he says, someday you're going to be a leader. You need to listen to these words. And I was sitting in the back because I was a crazy kid. I mean, I listened, but I wanted to go, when you're at youth conferences, you want to see these cute boys, and there's other things that are happening. And so I was often late, and so I was in the back. And so he said, so you need to listen, right, Deborah? And I'm thinking, he's saying that because I'm late. And our elders watch out for our young people. They know what's going on. That's the way of life. If something goes wrong, our elders tell you what is wrong, and you listen. You ask my young kids, they know when Grandma says something, Grandpa, you listen. Grandma should never have to pick up anything off the floor. You be there, you pick it up. We take care of our elders. Those are our teachings. So I was thinking of those words that our elder had said, someday you'll be doing this work. And I was driving to the airport, got on the airplane, went to Washington, D.C., went to our offices, Senator Murray, Senator Cantwell, went to Rick Larson, Representative Larson's office, and that was a routine. They say knock and talk. You knock on doors, hello, how are you doing? Here's what matters most to us. Please help us fight for this, that, clean air, water. Please make sure that these industries are not destroying our waters. So I went into Senator Murray's office, and usually you get to meet with one staff member, maybe two. She had a few of her staff members come in. So, oh, well, good to see you. Good to see you. And one of them said, well, Deb, this is going good. This bill is happening. This and this. Here's congratulations on your new office. I said, yeah, it's nice to be the vice chairwoman. And then one of them, they looked at the other and said, go ahead, tell her. I said, tell me what? Well, the Violence Against Women Act, a bill that President Joe Biden had originally worked on, was about to be reauthorized. And so here goes. The protections again for GBLTQ will be in the bill. The immigrant protections, we're looking like it's going to pass the Senate. But I'm sorry, not the Native American provisions. No, I'm just kidding. What? Those are fighting words. No, I'm just kidding. I think that's why there were like 4 of them that day. Really, I'm not a mean person, but so I said, wait a minute. And all I could think of is people from outside of this country will be protected on the lands of the United States. What is it? Now I'm saying LGBTQ. Okay, come on. I've been traveling. Will be protected. LGBT. Now I can't say it. Don't confuse me. No, just kidding. You know what I mean. So, which is great. Which I totally understand that these communities absolutely deserve protections. But our Native American women are 10 times more likely to be murdered than anyone else in the United States. That often 4 out of 5, they say 3 out of 5, Native American women will be sexually assaulted in their lifetime. And in many Alaska Native communities, it's near 100%. In South Dakota, in many of those communities, it's near 100%. These records are off the charts. Native women have not received justice. So when I said, wait a minute, what happened here? Why are Native women not going to be protected? And my friend at the time, he's still my friend Sean, said, it didn't have the face. It just didn't have a face. It didn't get the support from the Senate. So I took a deep breath and kind of argued a bit. come on, we sent letters, we were here, we lobbied, we put a lot of work into this. And they just said, I'm sorry, it's done. There's no way the vote is in 2 days. So I took a deep breath, and I went back out to the original meeting I was supposed to be at. And I was walking through the halls of Congress, and I could feel, every step. And I thought, I'm so mad right now. Like, I am so angry. I thought of my mom. I thought of her mother. I thought of the generations of Native American women who have been raped and murdered and killed. And I'm alive here today. And the Senate, United States Senate, is saying that we don't deserve protections under the Violence Against Women Act. I thought, well, I thought of things in my head I could do that day. And I thought, well, I'm only one person. Where's all the other Native women? Well, wait a minute, we're maybe, 5% in the United States now? So I went to the meeting, which was primarily tribal male, a lot of environmentalists, a lot of primarily male. And I sat there, come on. I couldn't focus on the meeting, so I called Senator Murray's office, and I texted my friend, and I said, get Senator Murray immediately. He said, she's on the floor of the Senate. Right now they're voting. And I said, I need to speak to her now. And he goes, okay. Text back, and he says, come on, we'll meet you at the office. We'll go down to, there's the underground travel system. You know what I'm saying? So I went to meet with Senator Murray. I remember her walking right to the door saying, Deborah, so good to see you, Deborah. And I said, yes. And I said, well, and she goes, I know you're the vice chair. Come on in. She goes, we follow these things. And I said, okay. She goes, no, I knew someday you'd be in that position. And I said, thank you. And I said, Senator Murray, I'm very concerned. I'm concerned that Native women will not be included in this bill. And she said, I was too. I just didn't get the support. And I said, what can I do? I'm willing to tell you about my aunt who was raped and left for dead on the Tulalip reservation. I'm willing to tell you about some of the women I worked with one was found hung in the woods, who was murdered by her partner, domestic violence, sexual assault. I want to tell you about the others who have committed suicide because they've been raped repeatedly, and they felt like that was the only way out. That was the only way. And then, Senator Murray, I'm going to tell you about my life. What happened to me as a child. That I was sexually assaulted and abused. And I was one of many girls on my reservation. And she said, I'll call a press conference. Come tomorrow morning at 9:30, and we'll call a U.S. Senate press conference. Be there. And I honestly thought in my head, what did I just commit to? Oh no. That's not how you start day 2 of your public office. Because in my mind, I believe that a strong leader, you have to look strong, be strong. And coming out with, I've been sexually abused as a child. I've been through this. I've been assaulted. Doesn't to me seem like a strong leader. So I struggled inside with that. I went back to the meetings. The next morning, I woke up, I tried to write a speech, and often as a policy analyst, we write speeches for people, but this was the hardest speech. This was the hardest words, and I stayed up, and I kept thinking, what should I say? I've got one shot to convince the United States Senate that they need to vote for and protect Native women. One shot. And I couldn't do it. I went to sleep. I couldn't write, and everything just, it didn't make sense. So I went to sleep. I decided just to rest on it. I woke up, and I think probably an hour before my speech, I wrote my speech, grabbed my taxi cab, left, and met with Senator Murray, Senator Klobuchar, and Senator Boxer. These ladies are so I'm tall. So I was like, you always think these fierce, they're so amazing, these senators, and they are truly amazing to be in the seat that they're at. But it was so amazing to meet these strong, like they were shorter women. I'm like, so if you're short, you could do it too. Like, I just felt like I towered. But it was the first, what I learned, it was the first time that a non-senator had been in the Senate press conference to speak. So I felt very honored to be there. And so it opened up with, I believe, Senator Murray speaking, Senator Klobuchar, Senator Boxer, and then I spoke. And that's where I shared my story. And I can tell you, it was extremely freeing that I've carried this silence. I've carried the guilt and I've carried the shame for many reasons. I thought, well, no one will like me later, or, who wants someone who's been destroyed or hurt or abused? So all of those things that one thinks when they've been abused, the guilt and the shame, I carried that. And so as I spoke to all the cameras and media that were there, the room was filled. All I could think of it was the victims. Is that there's so many victims who never had a word, who were murdered. There's so many missing and murdered Indigenous women in the United States and in North America and across the world that their names, I wanted to honor them. And I could tell you it was really hard because I could hear, there was so much I could hear, like cries. Like if you believe in those spiritual connections, I couldn't even think. And at one point in the speech, I had to say, can you guys be quiet? I'll speak for you right now. Can you be quiet? I mean, it was so, the room was so packed spiritually. And it's hard to say that if some of you may know what I'm talking about. But I see in that moment, the video that's been across the world, there's that moment where I'm like, whew, okay, this is me now, and I can speak from my heart. And so I did. I shared with the world what took place in my life. And I urged Congress to please protect and uphold their responsibility to protect Native American women. And so that afternoon, after the speech, walked down the halls again and got in the taxi cab, and I thought, whoa, please, please. The next morning, woke up, went to the vote. I sat in the Senate gallery, and I watched all the speakers who had been watching, televised through C-SPAN, that typically are fighting against Native women. And no, we shouldn't protect them. It's not constitutional for a non-Indian to go on a Native American reservation and be arrested for a crime committed against a Native woman. Yeah, they're over, Senator Grassley, over my dead body, will that ever happen? Will a non-Indian be arrested by an Indian tribe? So there's a lot of racism, a lot of things happening here. A lot of belief systems that there will not be justice for a non-Indian on a reservation because their courts will not handle it appropriately. And yet we have law-trained judges that come from out of these universities. We have court systems, we have police systems. They go to the academy. We are capable. The problem is that the jurisdictional maze, often police officers will not go onto a reservation because they'll say, that's your jurisdiction. Well, no, we don't have jurisdiction. That's for you to come and help us protect our women. No, it's a checkerboard reservation. Some of this is county road, some of this is reservation road, and at the end of the day, Some of the statistics are 86% often of the victims never receive justice. The cases are not taken by the U.S. prosecutor's office. So that's a real problem. So we fought and we fought. And that day, it passed the U.S. Senate. Native women were put into the bill. Now, as all good work goes, you have to pass both houses. So we passed the Senate. So come over here to the House side. Hello, House side. We want Native American women protected. What do you think about that? Is there really an issue, Ms. Parker? I'm Vice Chairwoman Parker. Yes, there is an issue, and let me tell you about it. I don't have much time. Okay, well, I'll come back tomorrow. And as you know, the Washington to Washington, it's a long flight. So a lot of us had to fly back and forth. And we had other tribal leaders and other folks who joined in with us to help fight and help educate Congress to let them know Native American women are worth protecting. And so it was a long battle, and in 2012, we lost. We lost. The House side would not take up the bill because Native women were included. And so public outrage, there was public outrage, and okay, so we got to work harder. So let's continue working. And we did. We worked night and day. We worked night and day, early morning, late night, making phone calls, calling, went to social media, went to media, the press, conferences. We did as much as we could. And so the next session came in, and it passed again on the Senate side. Thank you, Senate. We had to go back over to the House side. Again, it was a battle. It was tiresome. Teresa Sheldon, who's in the room, she came with us many trips. Often there was times where she cried. No, I'm telling on you. She's like, I can't do this. I'm exhausted. I'm tired. My feet hurt. I'm tired. I can't, it's horrific the way some of the representatives are talking about Native women. Like, who would do this to Native women? So you have to toughen up. You have to toughen up and say, let me tell you, there are several people who will do this. All nationalities. It's not just one nationality. It's not just some Mexicans or, this is every nationality. There's men, male, female. There's a lot of people raping. There's a lot of people hurting our children, our women, our men, our boys. All we're asking for is justice so that we can put perpetrators away in jail. So there was a big fight. It really wasn't looking like it was going anywhere. And finally, I can tell you that Congressman Dave Reichert, who opposed us, he opposed us, yeah. And in this case, I had a private meeting with him. This was quite a few times I'd been to his office. And at this point, he agreed that if I help him put some sexual predators, child molesters, if we help extend sentencing for child molesters, that he will help with the bill, the VAWA. And so, okay. Yeah. Yes, I'm in. And if he would also help get the other, I believe there were 13 other Republicans who were against our bill, including a female from the state of Washington on the east side. Her name is Kathy McMorris Rogers. And so this is what we're looking at. And I thought, well, how can you're a woman? How can you not understand? How can you not understand the need for protections? So in the end, we got enough votes. They took it back. They took it up to vote on the bill. And in 2013, the Violence Against Women Act, including tribal provisions passed. Yes, thanks to you. Thanks to so many of you in here. Yes. And in March 2013, we stood on stage. I was able to stand on stage with President Obama, Vice President Biden, and we signed the bill. And I can say that it was one of the best feelings, because it was never ever about me. It was never ever, or I should say just about me. It was never ever just about one other person. It was about all of us. It was about this whole system that has torn us apart for so many years, that has separated us. They put reservation boundaries, and they forgot to protect us? No, we were supposed to be killed off. As Native people, we were not supposed to be. We're not in the history books. We're still not in the history books. So can you imagine how it feels for a young Native kid not to be in the history books, not to be on television? When people talk about issues, we don't mention the Native Americans. Maybe it's a shameful past. But if you back up prior to the government policies and procedures to eradicate us, there's a beautiful people. There's a beautiful culture still in existence. And when we talk about racism or breaking those boundaries, that's what we have to do. It's not about changing Native American people to become like us because this is the ideal way to be a U.S. citizen. It's about, assimilate. It's about understanding, embracing, and loving what's already here. And yes, many of us have been through these hard times. Many of us have been through sexual assault, domestic violence, violence against us. We went through classrooms where we don't exist. Teachers won't answer us. Yes, we've been through that. So yeah, our self-esteem is pretty damn beat up. But I'd like that to stop, please. I have some children. I have my son with long hair. We love his long hair. It's his medicine. I've got grandchildren. I want them to be happy here. I want them to live amongst you and with you. But not so that they can change, but so they can be their best self. So they can celebrate their grandma Addie, so they could celebrate their grandpa Terry, and then their traditional teachings that come from such a beautiful place. And I don't want them to sit in a classroom and feel like they're ignored and that they're not part of this history, because we all have a piece of that we can change. We all can be a part of that, and that just comes from understanding yourself and understanding that what somebody else looks like doesn't mean that's what's on the inside of them. So through this, 10 minutes? Okay. Through this pain, through this struggle, through family members being incarcerated, and I tell you, every time I come here, I remember when my relative was locked up at the Denny Youth Center. And I remember, we didn't have much money, and he took a bike from the neighbor. He wanted to just ride a bike. And I remember watching a Marysville police officer arrest my brother, and we were just driving my mom's car down the road. He had just turned 16. So we were pretty excited that him and I got to go alone, and I remember the police officer pulling us over. And they approached him and says, "All right, get out of the car." What happened, officer? Your tail light's out. That his tail light is not out. Everything's checked. You check the blinkers because you have to do your driving test. And I'm the big sister, so I know all of this was happening. And my brother's just the sweetest kid. He's a big teddy bear, and we babied the heck out of him. So this is a very sweet kid. And so here he was, 16, and next minute I know he's being taken out, grabbed out of the car, thrown on the ground. The boots were on his back, and he's, "Where's the drugs?" I'm like, "You have the wrong person." Like, my little brother would never, there's no drugs. He's so against drugs and alcohol. And so they're, "Shut up, woman," and I'm sit still, and what's going on in the back? And all I knew is something was he was getting roughed up in the back of the car. And all I remember is they didn't find anything in the car, and he got back in the car, and I said, "That's ridiculous. What the heck, these cops?" And no way, they were stereotyping you. They were, I was trying to think of all the words that go with profiling. You get older, you learn it's profiling, you learn all those things. But when you're younger, you're like, "That's not right. He's thinking you're, the big brown boy," and, from the cartel. And a lot of times you're profiled as Mexican, so it's like, So he didn't say a word to me. We just drove home. He went in the room, he locked the door, and I was telling my mom, Mom, this cop did this, and he just dragged him. I don't know what happened to the back. I just seen a little bit. I seen they had their boots on him, and there's things that happened in the back, Mom, and they wouldn't let me out of the car, and after that, he changed. He changed. Like, he hated the police, became angry, and no matter what I told my brother, that those guys are ignorant, they don't know nothing, that the police, they don't know better, and just like, leave it alone, Deb. And I know that to this day, I know that was one pivotal moment in my brother's life. And so there's moments like that where we don't have that mutual compassion or understanding that racial profiling is happening, and that we really lack that. I think you have to have self-love. I think those people who have self-love and compassion, they can reach out and say, "Hey, excuse me, your tailgate's out," or something, but this is not what was happening. This was another degradation. This is another way to put another human being down. And why? So you could feel better about yourself? Bullies. I mean, there's many bullies around us. And so, I think living here, breathing here, what we all want is we want this to be a better place. We want Snohomish County. We want this world. We want not only it to be a better place for our children, for ourselves. We don't want our children to be violated. I don't think any of us does. But I think there's a sickness. And until we talk about it, until we face it, whether we're the abusers or not, because no, I'm definitely aware that none of us are perfect, that many of us have been through so many things in our life that no one else will ever know. But I can tell you that it's a good day to get some healing. It's a good day to be in this room to talk about how we can come together for mutual understanding. It's a good day to admit to ourselves that life hasn't been perfect. But guess what? It's not meant to be perfect. Not at all. That each one of us grieves in different ways. Each one of us has an insecurity that no one else will know. And we may try and hide it. But why hide it anymore? Why don't we come out and be free? Why don't we tell each other that, I'm hurting today? Why don't we sit with our friends and our neighbors and have a cup of coffee? Someone we don't know. Because I think today is a good day. And I'm so glad that we're here. I'm so glad that the Violence Against Women Act has passed. I'm so glad that we have some successes, because we've arrested, the Tulalip tribes has arrested 20 perpetrators. 20 perpetrators. And quite a few have offended multiple times. So these are small steps, but they're good steps. And what does it take? It takes your honesty. It takes your sincerity. It takes real courage to stand up and say, I'm an abuse victim. I've been hurt and I've witnessed some things that aren't fair in this life. But I'm willing to forgive. I'm willing to move forward. I'm willing to stand beside you when you need help. And I'm hoping that we can do this together. I'm hoping that we stop shutting our doors, that we look at ourselves for whatever we possess, and that we stand up in a much stronger and a much better way. And I love that saying, you wake up and just be the best that you have. That you our elders teach us in the Longhouse, always expect the unexpected. You never know what can come into your life in the day. So wake up. It doesn't have to be as planned as you think it is. Allow the Spirit to come in and to move you. Allow yourself to be vulnerable and hurt. Allow yourself to cry and feel that healing so that you can become a better person. And forgive yourself. Forgive yourself for the times that you're not, because we're all human. And the more you forgive yourself, the more you forgive others. And that's what we need. That's truly what we need. And these are things I'm saying to you. They're things I'm working on myself. So thank you. Thank you in our language, teak wheat seed. Thank you for this moment in time. Thank you for being here today, for being open to hear the words of the speakers, to shake the hands of each other. And don't be afraid to give each other hugs. Hugs are great. They are. Remember that touch. Remember the Trump touch? With permission, of course. Touch someone in a good way. All right, I love each and every one of you. Thank you for being here today.